Excellent. Well, welcome everybody to this session today called Starting Kindergarten, a virtual session for caregivers. I'd like to begin by introducing our presenters today. First of all, my name is Catherine Jewell. I am the District Administrator for Early Learning in the school district. We are joined today by Megan Zenny. She is a teacher consultant for early learning. And we are also welcome today with Jindy Appel, who is one of our Strong Start educators and early childhood educator here in the Richmond School District. I'd like to start today by acknowledging and thanking the First Peoples of the Hunkaminam language group on whose traditional and unceded territories we teach, learn, and live. We have a land acknowledgement in the Richmond School District that we use to recognize the Indigenous peoples who are the original stewards of the lands on which we now live. Acknowledging territory is an important way to show respect for the original people of this place, and it is a significant act of reconciliation. It also provides an opportunity to consider you and your family's relationship to the land. Today, questions will be done using the Q&A chat box. It's different than the typical chat box. This is a Q&A that I will monitor. And throughout the session, you can type your questions into there. And when we come into the end of the session, I will have looked through the questions, found themes that all kind of make sense, and will begin to acknowledge and try our best attempt to answer some of the questions that you have. So you can put those questions in the chat box at any time. And again, it's the chat box called Q&A. We have some goals for today's session. We want to make sure that you leave today knowing just how important the families are in early learning. We also want to talk about the importance of play as it relates to a kindergarten learner. We will spend a bit of time discussing what to expect as your child enters kindergarten, with a few tips and suggestions for families at home over the course of the summer, and then we will do our very best to answer your questions. Before I hand it off to one of my colleagues, I just wanted to take a moment to touch on that first point about the importance of families in early learning. We want you to know that as a school district and as a community where learning is at the heart of everything we do, that we acknowledge the crucial role that families play in shaping the development of a child and across the span of their life. You provide the emotional security for your child. You help them feel loved and safe, and they're more confident to explore at school because of that. You're their first teacher. Parents and caregivers are the child's first educator. You introduce language, those social norms that we experience in settings, those fundamental skills before they even enter a school system. You are their support system. You encourage your child. You boost their motivation. You help them persevere, and you give them that ability to overcome challenges, which is an absolutely natural part of the learning process. You also nurture the values that are important in you and your family's life. You help them with respect and how to care and how to communicate with the world around them. Before I pass it off, I would just like to let you know that there's a beautiful quote that captures the importance of you, the family. Children learn more from what you are than what you teach. So thank you for everything that you do to bring your child to us in the Richmond School District.
Thank you, Ms. Jewell, for that. I'm Jindy. I am a Strong Start educator here in the Richmond School District at McNeely, and welcome to all the families. Thank you for joining us today. As Ms. Jewell has pointed out, you are your child's first teacher, and families are the first teachers, the primary caregivers, and the knowledge holders of their children. Families have the most important role in promoting their children's well-being and learning. I love this quote from our Ministry of Education. It speaks to the heart of how we feel for you and your child. And starting kindergarten is such a special time for both you and your child. It's not just about your children, it's also about you. You're also coming into our school system, and we embrace that and welcome you into our schools. I still remember, my children are adults now, but I still remember when they started kindergarten, and it's the most special time to meet those teachers and librarians and the resource teachers and the principals. It's a wonderful time, and the circle of people for your children is growing day by day. You might be their only adult in their life or their grandparents. Some have been to preschools, some have been to childcare or Strong Start here, but others have not. So this is a big step coming into the school system and trusting other adults with them. So on that end, you as a parent, it's so important that you show your children and demonstrate that you trust us and that you feel secure and confident of where you're sending them. Children are really smart and they really pick up on your feelings. So even if you're not expressing that you're nervous, they know you're nervous. So as much as possible, really try to embrace this new adventure and excitement for them. And they themselves will then pick up on that. And that's what we want. Don't project your worries because children are pretty smart and they will pick up on that pretty quick. When they come to school, they're going to meet so many people. They're going to meet the librarians, the resource teachers, the classroom teachers, the principal. So that can be a lot for children. So again, showing them that you trust every person that's going to come in really helps a long way. Yeah,
Okay, next slide. I think
thank
that's
you.
me.
Yes.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. My name is Megan Zenny. I'm the early learning teacher consultant in the Richmond School District. Play is really how children learn, and play can occur indoors and outdoors in school. Play is responsive to the lived experiences that children bring to their play, and it's really how children make sense of the world. Play gives children freedom to imagine, and it's critical for developing problem-solving skills. Through play, children develop important dispositions for lifelong learning, including self-regulation. So that's their ability to wait their turn, for example. They also develop a positive sense of agency through play. So that's their ability to self-talk and say, I can do hard things. It also builds frustration tolerance. Sometimes large group learning environments can be frustrating for kids. And so they start to learn how to navigate learning in community. So in kindergarten, the teachers will prepare the learning environments for play in different ways. You can expect much of your child's kindergarten day to be structured around play. Some of the play will be adult directed, and in the image that you're looking at, that includes learning games. Some of the play will be child directed, and that includes free play outdoors. It's important for your child to have experiences taking and following directions from adults, as well as being given lots of time to entertain themselves. So both ends of that continuum of play are really important. We want children to be able to follow instructions that the adults are giving them, and we also want them to be able to play freely on their own without waiting to be told what to do before they arrive at school. Kindergarten really is a year of playful learning. And in kindergarten, your child will be learning how to play with others, to take turns, to share ideas and feelings. Even if your child is coming from a full-time childcare environment, it'll be a new group. So this is sometimes children go through childcare environments with the same cohort of children, and when they enter kindergarten, it's a new group. So they're learning how to be friends with new children. They're learning how to be patient and wait their turn. The ratios of children are increased when they enter kindergarten. So there's just a lot more waiting, and they learn how to do that. They learn how to tell and enjoy stories. They learn to follow routines and directions so that everybody in the class can move together as a community. They learn how to clean up and take care of their belongings. They learn how to take care of their body. And as you can see in this image, they learn how to dress for the weather. They also learn in kindergarten some literacy and some numeracy skills. These are foundational academic skills that will be introduced in the kindergarten year. Your child will be taught according to the curriculum provided by the BC Ministry of Education, and teachers design learning to meet the needs of your child. Our BC curriculum differentiates between math that we learn in school, so for example, counting or the names of shapes, and numeracy, which is the real world application of skills that are learned in math. Uh, Numeracy is connected to other subjects and often real world contexts. So in kindergarten, the focus is playing with numbers and learning how to be flexible in how we understand numbers so we can become numerate. Foundational skills are also taught in kindergarten with an emphasis for literacy. We emphasize phonemic awareness in kindergarten, and that's the ability to hear and identify and manipulate individual sounds in our spoken words and our oral language. Alongside phonics, which is the ability to match letters to the sounds that they hear in words. But these skills are mostly taught and practiced using songs and rhymes and games, so there's a lot of play in this. Comprehension, concepts of print, that means that, we read in English from left to right. If your child's in French immersion, they will also be learning to read left to right, how to open a book, how to turn the pages. All of those pillars of literacy, we would call them, are important and they will engage with daily in the kindergarten year. These skills are often taught through whole class read alouds. The teacher will sit the children down, read them a book, talk and narrate through the process of what a literate person is doing, and they often will be read picture books frequently. Catherine, I'll pass it back to you to talk about what gradual entry looks like.
Okay, just turn my camera back on for those of you who see me. Gradual entry is an opportunity to have a transition. Coming to school is an exciting time and there's so many opportunities, but we want the transition to be smooth and seamless and happy experience for all. So a gradual entry provides focused time for you and your child to connect with a kindergarten teacher, to adjust to a new social and emotional reality of a larger school context. Teachers will introduce the children to the routines like Megan discussed and procedures, as well as easing the transition to a more individualized way so that your child feels more comfortable. This is also a time where your child will meet other teachers in the school, other staff, and the school administration. So what does gradual entry look like? Well, children and their family will have opportunities, and during this time, your child will be given a group A or a group B schedule. And in some situations at smaller school sites, there may only be one group. It just depends on how many were registered for each school site. Families then will have a gradual entry period from the first week of school, where they will attend for an hour, then it moves to 2 hours, and moving over the recess time as well. In the second week, families will be invited to a welcoming conversation, and students will attend all in the morning. And then finally, by the last day, they will be attending over the lunch period. So they'll have that opportunity to practice that routine as well. This, what you see on the screen, is a sample. So our gradual entry for you next year will be emailed to you from the school that your child is enrolled at. And that email will give you your gradual entry schedule for your child. What I do know for sure is that it is by the Thursday of the second week, which will be the 12th of September, that your child will have their first full day of kindergarten. So it mimics the schedule that you see here. And then after that, it's the full day from 8:45 to 2:45 every day. It's very important that in the first week, 2 weeks of school, that you and your family have a family plan for care, as the kindergarten teachers are busy in the times that the children are not there doing the welcoming conversation. Thanks, you, Megan. So the welcoming conversations will be an appointment that you will have with the child's teacher. You will be provided some sample questions. Welcome to kindergarten starter conversations in your email out before July. Um, and there's things that discuss general development, physical development, language, social, emotional, and then just the overall getting to know your child. You will also be provided a wonderful me sheet to fill out with your child. And this is kind of like a child interview, learning what the child's preferences are and getting them to be engaged in the process. And you'll be able to bring that as well to school and to share with your teacher.
Thank you. How to help your child prepare for kindergarten. This is such a big question I get asked all the time by parents. They're constantly wondering, well, my child doesn't know the alphabet or doesn't know their colors. And when we say prepare them, that is not what we're looking for. We're not wanting you to have them reading and writing before they enter. We're talking more about their social and emotional well-being. Children are going to be excited to come to school or not, and that's okay. The teachers will meet them where they're at. What we would like to see is when through the summer that you're helping your children to practice to be kind, to work with other friends or families or adults, to be generous and learn how to share in their community. These are things that will help them when they start kindergarten. And that would be more important than worrying about their letters and colors at this time. We also want you to share stories about your own family, your cultures, your traditions, so your child knows, has a sense of who they are and where they come from, so they can then share that with the rest of their new group that they're going to meet, their new friends and teachers. So that's highly important. We also would love for you to give children choices at home to help them get ready for school. So I'm not saying give them their whole wardrobe and say, what would you like to wear today? But maybe give them two choices of outfits and say, would you like this one or this one today? And giving them that independence of making choices for themselves. Read books. Go to the libraries. We are so fortunate here in Richmond to have so many wonderful public libraries. We encourage you to read all summer. They do a reading club during the summer. So go to your local library, get books, read with your children, let them explore the books on their own. And again, when I say read, it doesn't have to be the actual words in the books. When I do story time here, I always start with the cover and I say, what do you see on the cover? What do you think this story could be about? And children will give you their ideas based on the photos and the illustrations that they see in the book. And they can make up their own stories. It doesn't have to be what the words actually say. That is still pre-reading. That is what we want to see children do. And read stories before bedtime or when they wake up or any time of the day. We highly encourage books. It is a wonderful way for them to prepare to come to school. And having said that, we also are asking to limit screen time as much as possible. I'm not saying you can get away with it completely. For some families, they need it during cooking time or just need a downtime, and that's completely understandable. But as much as possible to limit it. Children at this age don't need it. And we're finding when they come to school, they're full of energy and very active when they've been watching screens. So particularly when they do start school, please don't have them on a screen before they attend class, because then that just sets them up for that high energy and activity, and it might be hard for them to settle into the school day. And speak and read to your child in your own language. Again, when you get those books, it doesn't have to be the English, whatever your home language is, encourage that and embrace that so your child maintains it. Take time to play with your child. Take time, a concentrated time, not where your phone is still next to you and you're going to get distracted. Put away all electronics, put away work things, and really have a one-on-one experience. Here at Strong Start, that's what we value. We want you to come and be with your child, be that teacher that we already know you are, and help them learn. And it doesn't have to be just child's interest. It could be your interest. You know, if you love to cook, have them cook beside you. If you like to go biking with my children, we would go biking because that's what I like to do. So whatever your interest might be, show your children, have them join you as well. So it doesn't always have to be play their Lego or their dolls. Bring them into what you enjoy as well. Take time to enjoy the amazing land that we live on. Go for walks. And I don't mean go for walks on sunny days. I mean, go for walks anytime, in the rain, in the snow, in the cold, in the wind. The amount of things you'll see in different seasons is so vital for your children. And they're going to experience that when they come to school anyhow. Generally, all schools in Richmond, children are sent outside to play no matter what the weather. So you want children to be well adept with that and embrace it because we are very fortunate where we live and we have such amazing weather. And talk about it. Talk about what you're seeing. You know, if they say it's windy, how do we know it's windy? What do you see that tells you it might be windy? What are you observing? So have those wonders and questions constantly. That's important. And you don't have to have the answers. If you don't know, it's okay to say, I actually don't know, but I'm wondering, how could we find out? And you can learn together again. So doing all these things with your child every day is so helpful for when they start kindergarten. Um, Another big one is emotions. Everybody loves to see their children happy and joyful, as we all do, but we also want to embrace all our emotions. We're not always happy and joyful. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're mad, and sometimes we get frustrated, and that's okay. But what do we do when those things happen? How do we embrace those feelings and help children through it? That's what you want to really work on. It's not dismissing it or try to just keep them happy and give in to whatever they might want. For example, if they don't want to share a toy, well, sometimes you have to share, and I know it's sad and it makes you mad, but today that's what we're going to do. So it's working through it with them. So that is so helpful when they come to school because, again, they're going to be one of 20 children in a classroom and they all can't play with the same toy or paint at the same time. So learning to be patient and wait their turns is very helpful. We also encourage when you do start school in September to limit their extracurricular activities. So things that you might do after school. For some of these children, they're going to be coming for the first time to school for the whole day. So that can be a long time. So really limit what they do after school. And lastly, because I know we have to keep going, walk to your schools and bike to your schools, visit the playgrounds, let your children get familiar with it so they're comfortable when they do come to school in September. Thank you very much. Pass you to Megan.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my camera off because I keep getting bumped out. So I'm
Oh.
going to see if this improves my connectivity.
That's fair.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of outdoor play and active transportation. So active transportation is when we make every possible human effort to walk our children to school or ride bikes to school. It's really important for all measures of wellness in childhood that children are getting that sort of breath of fresh air in the morning, and that they're just getting some time with you and connecting with you before the school day. And then also that does make a little bit of time in the day. Sometimes we get to school just a few minutes early and kids have a little bit of time to play outside before school. And if you're picking your children up after school, they also get that opportunity to play a little bit at the school after school. And some of the benefits of outdoor play is that it really gives children some freedom to make decisions about how they move their own body. It gives them freedom to imagine in natural settings. Children begin to notice changes in the environment, seasonal change, the weather. They start to notice how living things grow and change when they spend time in natural environments. Children can also begin to use their bodies in different ways when they play outside. They can run further, they can run faster, they can climb higher, they can jump, they can crawl, they can balance, they can dance in ways that aren't as accessible when they're inside. In Richmond schools, children will be spending time playing outside every day, and that usually includes recess and lunch as a given, but also many teachers will use instructional time for teaching outdoors as well. So children must be prepared for outdoor play every day and for all weather play outdoors. Even if there's no outdoor learning scheduled for the day, children will almost always be going outside for recess and lunch. Even in weather that we might not prefer to play in, children will still benefit from being outside in the rain. So, how you can help your child with that is making sure that they have a rain jacket with a hood, that they have rain pants, waterproof rain pants. Having pants with a cuff around the bottom that goes over the boot helps keep your child's clothing dry. Having a good pair of rain boots, thinking about a muddy buddy even in the kindergarten years can be very helpful. And that is a one-piece rain suit that your child steps into and then zips up from their ankle to their chin. And it's fantastically easy for kids to get on and off themselves, and it keeps everything that they're wearing to school dry. We do discourage the use of umbrellas at school. There's a lot of reasons for that. The first is that children can't use their hands when they're holding an umbrella. It makes it very hard for children to be actively playing outside if they're holding an umbrella. They will often just stand and sort of shiver in the rain instead of running and playing and keeping their bodies warm. They also can't explore, they can't pick things up, look at things in nature, they look at leaves, they look at pine cones. There's lots of exploring that they can do when they have both hands available. Um, Now that we've been outside and muddy, it's also important to think about when they come back inside that they have a pair of inside shoes. Your child's teacher will be much more specific about what they require or request in the classroom, but most kindergarten teachers will ask for a pair of inside shoes that stay at school that are not worn outside. And what that does is means that when the child is playing outside, they can jump in the puddles, they can get wet and muddy, and when they come back inside, they have something dry to wear in the classroom. Most kindergarten teachers, you'll see in this image, there's like a Ziploc bag of clothing. Most teachers will ask for a change of clothing, extra socks, especially a couple of extra pairs of underwear, shorts or a t-shirt, something dry and warm that your child can put on if they do get wet when they're outside. You'll want to think about the weather as it changes seasonally, making sure that as we move into the fall and the winter months, that you are adding layers and thinking about clothing that will best keep your child comfortable when they're outside. And then, of course, now as we move into the summer months, that you're thinking about being sun safe. Long sleeve shirts, hats, protecting children from UV rays would be important. If you're choosing to put sunscreen on your child, that's something you need to do in the morning before your child comes to school, or they need to be able to apply it themselves. That's not something that teachers will typically be able to help your child with. So thinking about being sun safe, thinking about playing in all weather, and making sure that your child can put on and remove these pieces of clothing by themselves. Um, when they enter kindergarten, it is very helpful if your child is able to use the toilet by themselves. That means that they can identify and listen to their body that they need to use the toilet, that they can open the door to the bathroom. They will have a private bathroom that they can use either in the classroom or down the hallway. There is a stall that they can use. They need to be able to enter the bathroom, remove their clothing, go to the bathroom, tidy themselves up, flush the toilet, redress themselves, and then join the class. If that's something that your child is still learning how to do, it's really important that you let the classroom teacher know in that welcoming conversation. There is usually anywhere between 15 to 20 children in a classroom, and we do have some need for children to be able to manage that themselves. If children are using classroom or washrooms that are outside of the classroom, they will often be buddied up with another child to go to the washroom, so they're not walking the hallways by themselves. That changes as the year goes on. Most schools encourage outdoor play, like we've previously said. So making sure that your child can put on that clothing themselves, but also that you as the adults and the parents and guardians are labeling all of your children's items that can be removed. You can imagine with 15 or 20 children, all of those boots, all of those coats, all of those hats and gloves and mitts and all of those things, it gets really hard to find your own things if they're not labeled. So labeling everything in your child's lunch kit, their backpack, anything that you are sending to school that can be removed from your child's body or that is separated from their body, it's really helpful for yourself. It's cost effective to label everything, but it also helps the teacher reunite your child with their items. And that also extends to when they're outdoors, especially in seasons where sometimes it's cold in the morning, but as the children run around, they warm up and they take off their jacket, they take off their gloves, maybe they take off a sweatshirt, and they forget because they're young children and they leave them outside. The school can help reunite your child with these items if you have taken that step of clearly labeling the item. And then making sure that all changes of clothing that you send to school are also clearly labeled. Back to you, Jindy.
Thank you. Snacks and healthy lunches. This can be great, but also stressful. It can be quite a challenge for some families. We hear, parents saying, well, they don't eat quickly. It takes them an hour to eat. Our lunch times are 15-minute window to get them fueled up for the day. So when you're preparing snacks, you want to make it easy for yourselves and your child. First of all, their containers. Make sure they're containers your child can open on their own, that they can get into quite easily. Again, as Megan has mentioned, there's up to 20 children in the classroom and one teacher at sometimes in the classroom. So they can't be helping all the children in that short amount of time. Um, you know, I would recommend talking with your children. What will they eat? And making lunch and snacks together, healthy ideas. Try to limit the amount of sugary cookies and processed foods that you send. Try to send a lot more healthy, fresh snacks that you can. Have them help you make it, maybe even the night before, and so it's ready to go. I also suggest make it bite size, almost like a bento box where you have a lot of different choices like carrots and cucumbers and maybe a little sandwich or crackers and cheese and whatever you think your child will eat. Cut them into bite-sized pieces if you can. At school, they're not going to have screen time. And I have parents say to me, well, they only eat when they're in front of a screen. So if that is the case for your child, maybe practice that in the summer, maybe practice eating faster, limit their time for their lunch, have a bell, like a little bell go off that says, okay, 15 minutes for lunch, and then we're done and we're going to go on to the next thing. So they kind of get used to that idea. You could, and anything goes. You could have yogurt, cheese cubes, rice, noodles, soups. But again, just make sure those containers are easy for your child to get into. So that would be the thing. And, with my own children, parents always worry, well, they didn't eat. Well, that's their after school snack then. And that makes it easy. So if they didn't eat it at lunch, well, they're going to have that after school and that will be their fuel afterwards. So that's what I would recommend because children have to get used to that idea of having their lunch in a shorter amount of time. So yeah, any other questions on that? Let us know. Thanks. I think it's back to you again, Megan.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I'm going to mention one thing because I'm noticing in the
Yeah.
photo that there are nuts in the photo, and all of our schools are nut free. So this is not a great representation of what we might pack in a school lunch because we cannot have nuts in our schools. And your child's teacher will let you know if there are any specific allergies in the classroom. So if there are dairy allergies or things like that, you will find out in September. if there's any other
Thanks,
restrictions
Megan.
around food.
I noticed
Uh,
that too. So
yeah,
thank you for mentioning
I
that.
know. I was like, oh, we better mention that. Yeah.
I know, I was staring at that too. I was like, oh no, there's nuts in the pictures. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about sleep. So, young children aged 3 to 5 need at least 10 hours of sleep to be ready for school. And the Canadian Pediatric Society says 10 to 13 hours of sleep a night. We need to establish a bedtime routine for children starting a few weeks before school starts to prepare for September. It's if your child has already been in a full-time childcare environment, you're familiar with how full the day is. So making sure that your dinner is, I am a parent of 3 young adults now as well. And when they were young in those kindergarten years, we would really aim to have dinner on the table at 5 o'clock so that we could have time to be together as a family, maybe go for a walk, play outside for a little bit. And then everybody is in bed at 7 o'clock. It helps just for the adults in the household to have that time at the end of the day, but your children will really benefit from an early bedtime. And then when they wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's not a rush, it's not a fire drill to get out of the house. You've got time to have breakfast together. You've got time to walk to school. Being well rested. I don't often give advice to families. I think everybody knows best what their children need. I would say this is my only advice is how important it is that your child is getting a very full night of sleep, really aiming for that 10 to 12 hours of sleep. If your child is unwell, you need to keep them home. If you send them to school unwell, you'll almost always receive a call from the school asking you to come and get them. The school itself will communicate with you the criteria, and those change depending on what's happening with public health. But the general rule is if your child has a fever, if they are vomiting, if they have any sort of eye infections or they're complaining of a sore throat, it's really best to keep your child home so they can rest. If they have symptoms like a sore tummy, or maybe it might just be that they're nervous, it's still okay to send your child if they're just maybe not themselves, but if they're visibly ill, you need to keep them home so they can rest. And so we know that parenting, all of us here are parents. It's a hard job, but it's also a super rewarding job. And there are lots of resources to support you in this transition to school. I remember so fondly these years. They really are such great years in my family life. They were really great years because there's so many ways to build community. It's such a great time. If this is your first child entering the school system, you have an opportunity to join your community parent advisory committee. You'll meet other parents in your school community. It's really a great time of growth for your child. So if you're looking for resources or you're looking for support, these are all available on our early learning website, which you can see the link there, our district website under early learning. And you can come and visit us at Strong Start. Miss Jindy is an example of one of our early childhood educators that are there. They can connect you to all of these resources. And you can go visit the nature park in Richmond. You can hang out at your school playground before school starts. There's lots of library programs you can join over the summer, really making sure that your child feels comfortable in that schoolyard and space, and that you're giving them some opportunity to make some decisions about how they play and where they play before they come to school, so that it's not all new. It's just a little bit new. They've had some experience with it. Okay, back to you, Jindy, about Strong Start.
As been mentioned, I am one of the educators at our lovely Strong Starts in Richmond. We're really fortunate to have 6 different locations that you can join us at. We are run by the Ministry of Education, and we are set up just like a preschool. So if you've never been and you're curious, we have one more week. So please come visit us at any of our locations. You just book an appointment online. And it's so important these early years for your child's future health, their well-being, and giving them those experiences. So you're welcome to join us, as I said, in the next week. And if you don't make it and you have younger children, You can come see us in September. We would love to see you and start the exciting transition to schools. And back to Catherine.
Okay. Well, what an amazing array of information that was so supportive. My children went through school a long time ago, and I was nodding to so much of it. We have many questions in the Q&A, and I also just wanted to do a big shout out to one of our local school principals who's come to support us today as well. Lisa Schwartz is here. So Lisa, if you know the school context so well, hi Lisa. She's also involved in on our team with early learning, and we're so lucky that she came today. So some of these questions, Lisa, feel free to jump in because you're so close to the ground in the knowledge of what some of these families have asked. So I will start, and I'm just going to go along the questions. The first question came about hot lunch programs. So many schools do have hot lunches that PACs put on, and they run a program using Munch a Lunch, which is an online registration, and they often become a PAC fundraiser. Lisa, might you just also make mention to the community fridges as well?
Of course, of course. Yes, schools, this is a wonderful program that we have in our district where we have a fridge, and many schools have given it a name. Ours is called the Snack Shack. And there's food available there at any time for people. Maybe they've eaten their lunches and they're having a growth spurt and they're feeling a bit hungry for them to go and select a snack. Maybe they just didn't have enough food that day for a variety of reasons. It's really about just reducing the stigma for students who need more food, and it's just a grab and go, and schools have different things. Right now we have fruits. Other time we have yogurt. Sometimes we have granola bars. It's just a variety of things. So that's one option. I wanted to also mention a few elementary schools do have like a delivery program that drops off lunch a few times a week, but every school is really just dependent on the kinds of programs. So it's good to check the websites. They're often updated with those kinds of questions about other hot lunch besides the PAC program.
Thank you. There's lots of questions about food here. The next one that I'll address is just around the schedule, and that we mentioned a snack. So yes, indeed, there's a recess in the morning, a 15-minute recess typically, and then the lunch is at noon. And some schools have play first and then eat, and then some schools, they eat first and then head out to play. So there are 2 breaks for children. And another family asks that if they don't eat the snack at recess, can they eat it later? Absolutely. In fact, having some smaller little snacks along the way can be supportive, and they can eat that, whether it's the recess time or the lunch. Lisa, is it also true that sometimes if a child hasn't finished, there could also be some class time? Does that happen in kindergarten?
Absolutely. We have 20 minutes to eat at our school that starts at 11:50 till 12:10, but many of the teachers either start a little bit early, especially at the beginning of the year where it takes more time to like open thermoses and stuff like that. I did see that question in the chat. So teachers get the kids started. And then if they aren't finished, they sometimes have quiet time after lunch where they have a bit of time just to finish. I know that we're very conscious about ensuring that no one gets hangry, and so that they've had enough to eat so that they can be successful in the afternoon as well. So, and I know also many kindergarten classes have a designated snack time at the recess that's not the outside time, especially at the beginning of the year as they're learning those just those things that they do to like wash hands and get ready and all of that kind of stuff.
One family asks about, would we help the child if their thermos gets stuck with the lid? Absolutely. In fact, I've walked a thermos around to about 12 different people to get help once when we had one that was really stuck. So the whole community, everyone tries to help. And often in kindergarten rooms, we have grade 6 or 7 student lunch monitors who are in there to help as well with packages. So yes, we will not let them struggle. We'll let them give it a try, and if they can't quite make it, then they will. We
Catherine,
have a
can I say
question.
one thing about that? I was going to say
Yes.
just a tip for parents. If you put like boiling water in a thermos and then put the lid on it, it sometimes vacuum seals it in a way that can't
Ah,
be opened. So just trying to put like a temperature that actually can be eaten in the thermos, because that I would say is the number one reason why we can't open thermoses, is because it is so hot inside that it there's a seal that's been created that makes it very hard to open them.
yeah, I agree. Another question around lunch is, are there staggered times for lunch for different grades? No, the Richmond School District does not have staggered lunch times. It is one time for the entire school in elementary. There was a question around allergies and EpiPens. Please note, if your child requires an EpiPen, there will be significant communication with you and the school in the beginning, right off the start. And yes, an EpiPen will be required on site for that child. Oh, a fantastic question around school supplies. So do we need to purchase school supplies like pencils and notebooks ourselves, or will the school be providing them? Thank you so much. In fact, we'll add that to our presentation in the future around school supplies. In the Richmond School District, children pay a school fee, and in that fee that is due in September, we then supply all the needs for all children. It is an equitable way for all children to have the same supplies and the requirements that the teacher needs. So you do not need to go out and buy pencils, crayons, notebooks this summer. Each child will be provided that once they come to school. Your big responsibility is the backpack, the lunch bag, the coat, those types of things that they need for themselves. After school, thank you so much for after school care options. This is a very important discussion that we need to have. There are many sites in the Richmond School District that have childcare on school grounds, but please note they are operated and run by independent providers. You do need to reach out to those providers to see if they have space. The school does not provide the childcare. That is something that each family needs to arrange for themselves. So if you go to your school website or the school district website, there is a tab that says childcare providers on school grounds. We have listed all of them there for you with their contact information. If for some reason that childcare provider does not have space and you are placed on a wait list, you can also contact the CCRR in Richmond or Richmond Kids, and they have all the providers that are off school grounds, and they can give you lists in your neighborhood. So that was a really good question. Some questions have also come up about parent groups. So parent groups, in general, the question is around whether there's anything online. So yes, there is a pack at each school in the Richmond School District. Those parent groups each then would have their own system of communication. So the question was, are there Facebook accounts or other channels where they can join parent groups? So the best thing to do is once you're now registered and you meet your school in September, to then find out about the pack and how you can join the different ways that community communicates. They'll be able to tell you at the school level. We do have some families that are needing to leave now, so absolutely, if you have to go, we have time to answer some more questions. So do you want to mention maybe a little bit about this? If you have a chance, Lisa, this one is around submitting the names of authorized adults that can pick up children if they are not able to pick up.
That's a really great question. So at the very beginning of the year, you will receive a student verification form from the office. And on that form, it has the names of the caregivers, aunts, uncles, and then there's a little question. It says, can pick up, and you would check yes. So then we can always see on the form all of the people that can pick up a child. Now, if there was one day where you had maybe an uncle in town and they were going to pick up and they weren't on your authorized list, it would be an email to the teacher that would, maybe it's a one-off that they're picking up a child to take them on a fun experience or something like that. And that would be something that if they weren't on your form, you would just let the teacher know. I also saw a question about, can a grade 5 sibling pick up after school, like a kindergarten student, and meet at the parents at parking? Again, that's a great question, Annie, and that would be something you would want to make sure you had communicated with the classroom teacher so that they knew that that was a person that could pick up your child and then meet you at the parking lot, and that you had that prearranged.
Lisa, another question is around what time could they drop off? So they know school starts at 8:45, but how early is appropriate?
Okay. So we have supervision starting outside at 8:30 in all elementary schools in Richmond. But most schools that I know of, the doors open to enter at 8:40. So there's like a welcome bell at 8:40. And for example, at Debec Elementary, we have outside classroom doors. So students line up outside that door, and at 8:40, then the staff opens the door to welcome them in and start the day.
It's lovely. If a child, so one question came up around if there's special materials that is required for a child based off of different professional recommendations, like special scissors recommended by an OT or pencils, could we send these with the child? So
yeah, you go ahead first, Kat. No, you go ahead first.
Okay. So I would absolutely recommend that when you meet your classroom teacher, that you communicate these needs. And if it's something that we don't have, we often have many of those things on site because we have really amazing teams of resource teachers who secure these items for children. And often we actually will connect with the OT for the child, the occupational therapist, and they will give us the recommendations. But if for some reason we don't have access and we're trying to bridge a gap, then absolutely sharing those resources to best support your child is helpful.
And I would jump in to say that if you ever had a report from an OT or something like that, and you felt comfortable sharing that with our teams, we would use that to guide our support of your child, and that would really help us going forward. So sometimes those recommendations come with like a report or something. So just even having that shared with the classroom teacher would be great.
Okay, and then believe it or not, the last question is around class size. What a fantastic question. So in kindergarten in British Columbia, the class size is the maximum is 20. And the minimum could be lower depending on enrollment in a community, but typically we find 20 children in a kindergarten class. Once it's out of kindergarten, then that goes up to 22 for primary age students with grades 1s through 3s. And then when the student enters grade 4, which is what we call intermediate, the class size maximum is 28 at the to get started off. So yeah, 20 to get us going for kindergarten. So one more. Okay, this is the last question, and then I think it's time because I know families will have to leave, but this is fantastic. Are we able to make requests on which classroom the child is placed in relation to classmates that they may know from a child care center?
That's another great question. I think what I've had that question at Welcome to Kindergarten actually from a couple of families because they do attend the preschool that's on our school grounds called Hatch. And what I say is, can you please just put that in an email? And so when we put that in an email, that way I don't forget when they've just told it to me verbally. And then we would do our best to honor that request. But there's so many factors that go into when we place classes. So it would be something that if it was, if it was important to you, you could put it in an email to the principal, and then they would see what they could do.
Well, families, this is a really exciting time for you all. Entering kindergarten is exciting. I know there's this wonderful saying of a double dip emotions, right? Like a double scoop ice cream. You can have both anxious and nervous feelings and excitement and joy. You can be a little scared and a little happy all at the same time. And I imagine that you're having all sorts of feelings. And that's not just the child, that's the adults. Here, us, this team here on this call with you, we're not only professionals in the Richmond School District and educators and leaders, but we're also parents. And we've all been there. And so we're all nodding because we know how exciting, yet a little bit nerve-wracking this is. So we hope today was supportive for you. We will post this recording on our early learning programs page on the Richmond School District website. So if you wanted to scroll back or share it with a family member, then you can do that in the future. Probably in the next day or two, we'll have that posted. So without further ado, a big thank you, Megan. A big thank you, Jindy. And thank you so much, Lisa, for bringing the perspective from your lens as a school principal. We're just so blessed that you, as a family of parents of new kindergarten students, came to join us today. And without further ado, we'll just say goodbye and thank you.